Hey, my name is Joe Gilder. I make music in a home studio, and for the last 16 years on this channel, I've helped other people learn how to make music in a home studio. So I am continuing that journey. This episode is part 2 of a mini series where I'm documenting my production process from start to finish on a new single. This will be a Christmas song, and I will be recording it here in my studio, featuring both myself on most of the instruments and also my kids, all 3 of my children, as well. It's really fun to think about. If you've been following me since the beginning, when Home Studio Corner began, I didn't have no kids. And now I've got 3. One's in high school, 2 are in middle school, which is just crazy to think about. And I'll introduce you to them later. But it's just fun. It's just fun. So thanks for being along with me for the journey. Just in case you're wondering, I am planning to live stream a lot of this production process here on the channel. So if you want to be notified when that happens, you need to most likely install the YouTube app on your phone. Go to my channel, Home Studio Corner, and do the notification thing. It should notify you. It might even notify you via email when I go live. I just went live a couple of days ago, spent about 2 hours live going through what I'm going to show you today, which is what I call the pre-production for this song. So I'm excited to take you another step into the journey. The song is Joy to the World, which is, somebody asked in the live stream, is this your original song? I said, nope, this was written in the 1700s, so I'm just doing my own cover of it. I did write a little sort of like chorus thing that you'll hear, but it's mostly just the original. But what I want to do here today in this episode is give you 2 tips and then take you on a tour of what we have thus far. So 2 tips and a tour. If you're listening to this on the podcast, which by the way, you can start getting these in your favorite podcast app. Just search up Home Studio Corner and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, places like that. You can hear the audio version of this. If you are listening to the audio version, hello ears. If you want to see what I'm doing on screen, obviously come over to YouTube and check that out. But I'll try to talk you through what we're doing here today. So 2 tips and then a tour of what we've got so far in the song. My goal with all of this is to get this song done. So doing it for you puts me it backs myself into a corner and makes sure that I get it done, which is a little trick. There's a whole lesson there. By the way, I noticed that tap tempo on that Fender Tone Master Pro blinks constantly unless you put it in tuner mode, and that blinking is it was annoying me. I could see it in the corner of my eye. I bet it was annoying you as well. Okay, so the 2 tips that I have for you. The first is when you think about producing a song, whether you are about to produce your very first song ever, which is really exciting, or like me, you've been doing this for decades, I want to let you in on a little bit of a secret. You don't have to have it all in your head before you begin. What do I mean? There are some producers out there who can hear a song and they will hear everything in the production in their heads before they ever set foot in a studio. I think that's cool. That's happened to me occasionally. Most of the time, my production sessions, my recording sessions are a lot more like mining for gold than simply just putting down on tape what I already heard in my head. And I think that should be a big relief for most people, because I would imagine most people don't have everything figured out up here. When I go into a project, I at most have a rough idea of the vibe that I want. I have a rough idea of the instrumentation that I think will work well, and I might have a rough idea of 1 or 2 parts that I want to record. So for this song, if you saw the last episode, the goal of that episode was to even just figure out what song I wanted to record. My kids and I have done a song every Christmas for the last 2 years. This will be the 3rd, and needed to pick a Christmas tune that I was excited to produce and to kind of make our own. Came across a few, but the one that connected with me was Joy to the World, and I did it in kind of this folky way and came up with this little Joy to the World, little interlude thing between verses that made me honestly disappear. If you haven't seen that episode, I literally disappeared, forget that you're there. I'm just kind of in it, singing and connecting. And then I come out of it and say, oh, hi, you're still here. Hello, camera. Let's talk about that. So one of the big the goal of that video was to figure out the song and to kind of get just a little hint of a vibe of what I want to feel at the end of this production, how I want it to overall feel. But I don't know the specifics. I have a loose idea going into it of what it's going to be. So the lesson there is, don't feel like you have to have it all figured out up here before you can set foot in your studio and start recording. That's no way to live. You might get to a point down the road after producing dozens and dozens of songs where you have more of that in your head, but I've been doing this for over half my life, and I still come into the studio some days and say, no clue what's going to happen. When I started that live stream 2 days ago for working on this song, there was nothing. I didn't even have a session created yet. And by the end, we had 15 tracks of audio, and a thing was born. That's what I love about creating in general, but specifically making music. You can by the end of today, you can have created something that did not exist when you woke up this morning. I'll never get tired of that. I love that so much. That gives me goosebumps. And if you know me, you know goosebumps are really important to me. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think of producing as mining for gold, but I want to give you a way of doing it that takes a lot of the pressure off. So you've probably heard me say, get it right at the source. That is my mantra. That is what I think everyone who produces music should do. Don't fix it in the mix, get it right at the source. Say it with me. Don't fix it in the mix. Get it right at the source. Meaning, don't just kind of fumble through the recording process and just pray that you can make it sound amazing with all your fancy plugins later. You can't. You can make it sound a little bit better, but what makes a great sounding mix is a great sounding recording of a great production, of a great performance, of a great song. Yes? Okay, I'm not going to belabor that point. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it a couple thousand more before I kick the bucket. But you might hear that, get it right at the source, and you think, okay, when I come in to start recording on a song, I got to nail it from the beginning. That first thing I record has to be amazing. Let me set your mind at ease. It doesn't. I want to introduce to you something that I don't talk a lot about, but it might be one of my most valuable production tools that I've ever used, and I will continue to use it because it is such a valuable thing. And it's something called the scratch track. What do I mean? If you look in any of my sessions, on any of my videos, and you see a track called capital X guitar, capital X vocal, or VOX for vocal, X Vox, that is what I call a scratch track. I put a big X so I can visually see that, okay, this is a scratch track. What is a scratch track? A scratch track is exactly what it sounds like. It is a temporary track that I record to help me kind of scribble out ideas for the song. Occasionally, something that started as a scratch track just to kind of help me figure out what this is going to sound like will make it into the final version. But usually the idea of a scratch track is it's a throwaway track that I plan to replace later if I decide that I want something like that in the song. Here's what I mean. I will start every song that I do, generally starts with a scratch vocal and or a scratch guitar or keyboard, meaning I just play the song, then I will build the production around those scratch tracks that I recorded with an eye towards eventually I'm going to record a proper version of that acoustic guitar, a proper version of that lead vocal. They're all going to be replaced later. Why is this so important? Because we hopefully feel the pressure to get it right at the source. And eventually, yes, we need to do that. The final tracks that we say, okay, I'm done, it's time to move on to mixing, we want those tracks to be amazing in their simple, raw form. But to get there might take a few iterations. It might take a few different attempts to even figure out what the vibe is going to be, and then you start figuring out how the instrumentation is going to go. What I want you to feel is creative and not burdened by perfectionism. I want you to feel creative and not burdened by perfectionism. Perfectionism is kind of a cancer. Yes, we want to do things well. Yes, we want to do things with excellence, but perfectionism is something other. I ain't got no time for that. I'm not saying we want to make things that are sloppy, but we also don't want to be so rigid that we make stuff that's kind of boring and stale because we never take any risks and we never go on any exploratory journeys. This is probably what I did the other day on the live stream is one of my favorite things to do in the studio, which is to just build something with no pressure that any of it that I record has to be the final version. If I switch over to Studio One right now, this is what I did, and I'll take you on a tour of this a little bit later. This is what I recorded on the live stream a couple of days ago. It's, as you can see, all these background vocals are scratch, meaning I just recorded them to be placeholders to kind of figure out what this song is going to be. As an example, the scratch guitar and vocal here. This is a single track where I both played and sang into one microphone, as you can hear here. 1, 2. Joy to the world. So that is just one microphone that I never, unless I'm doing like a real stripped down thing, generally that's not what I want. I want to record the guitar, I want to record the vocal separately. That will happen eventually. This was just letting me figure out the song. So this is a great example. When I started recording, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted, even the arrangement that I wanted. I knew the chord progression, although even now, just now as I'm thinking about it, I totally forgot about a thing I wanted to do. Forgot I wanted to go to this flat 7 chord. This is a great learning opportunity right now. The song is in, what doesn't matter, the song's in B flat. I'm playing it on my acoustic in G, capoed on the 3rd fret. And there was a part that I totally forgot about where when there's a clarinet solo, I wanted to go to an F. So we're in G, I wanted to go to the flat 7. I totally forgot that I wanted to do that. Good news is, this is all scratch tracks. None of it's real. I can overdub, replace, whatever, as much as I want. And that is such a good feeling. So anyway, when I sat down with the guitar, I decided to both play and sing so that I could kind of intuitively figure out the arrangement of the song. That felt more creative to me than sitting down with a legal pad and charting out the song or recording just guitar for 4 minutes and trying to remember where I am in the song and then come back and sing the vocal and then hope that I didn't miss anything. I thought, this is all scratch anyway. I'm just going to play and sing. Me in front of who'd have thought? Sit in front of a microphone and record and then build the song around that. I did decide on a tempo, and I did record to a click with headphones, but now when I recorded that single track with guitar and vocal, now I've got a playground that I can work with. There's no pressure. I can change anything and everything. None of this is permanent, but I can start to kind of build things out and see what I want it to be. That's the beauty of the scratch track. The scratch track is a placeholder that allows me to just throw some things down and see what I can create. And it always results, whether quickly or maybe it takes some time and frustration, always results in something that I'm excited about. And I don't have any of that pressure. I feel pressure now because I've got like the basic vibe of the song. So now I got to kind of re-record some things and get it right. But I found the thing I was searching for. I think of this part of the process, this pre-production phase, as mining for gold. I'm digging into the song to uncover something special, something that moves me, something that makes me excited, something that gives me goosebumps. I think goosebumps or tears, if you're a very emotional person, I tend to be very emotional, or if you're dancing in your chair, something, when the music moves you as a person, that is a big indication that you're on the right track. So I try to just do some pre-production to chase after. I call it chasing the goosebumps. I want to do it until it makes me excited about the song, and then I know that I'm on the right track, and that motivates me to continue moving forward. A word of warning about this style of producing. There are times when I'm recording with my band, for example, where we will set up drums, bass, me on guitar, and we will record all of those at once. And that's not scratch tracks because we're like recording for the album, but we spend a long time rehearsing and figuring out our parts in the room with all the mics set up before we actually record that first take. But when I'm producing by myself and I'm starting from just a guitar and a vocal or a piano and a vocal, I love to just let it be and just build it out. And I can build it and tear it down and build it again if I want to. The warning I have for you, if you take this approach, is don't stay in this mode forever. You could very well keep building and tearing down and building and tearing down ad infinitum, right? And never actually finish the song. That's not good. That's why I think taking this approach and also pairing it with a deadline is a deadly combination in a good way, because it forces you to give yourself enough space to be able to kind of play and figure out how the song needs to be before you're doing the quote-unquote proper recording sessions. But also don't give yourself endless time, because you'll take up that endless time. If you give yourself until whenever to finish, then you will take forever to finish. If I say, I want this out 2 weeks before Christmas, all right, I got to go, which means pre-production a couple of days ago, I had to find the vibe that day, because I got to get the parts written for the kids because they're playing clarinet and French horn. I got to write those parts, which was really the goal of the pre-production. The primary goal was to just write the parts so they could see them on paper and I could print them out and they could play them. And then secondarily, make a cool vibe too. Thankfully, I was able to achieve both, which was really fun. But don't take forever on this. Yes, use scratch tracks. Yes, allow yourself to be creative without having to commit to anything. But with the eye towards, I'm only going to do this for a day or two, and then I'm diving into like actually moving forward and finishing the song. Okay? Deal? Cool. That's the first tip. You don't have to have it all in your head. Use scratch tracks to figure out what the song wants to be. The second tip is make life easy on yourself when you're sitting down to record. Now, this applies to doing scratch tracks or doing, quote, proper tracks. There's a term in the cooking world that chefs will use called, I think it's pronounced mise en place. It looks like mise in place. It just means, it's a French phrase that just means to put in place. But it's this idea of, if I'm sitting down or walking into my kitchen to cook a meal, I want to have everything that I need within arm's reach. I want all the ingredients out, because A, I need to make sure I have that sesame oil before I start the recipe and realize I don't have it. But also it just makes it to where once I've started, I can just, without having to think, I can just say, I need this, I need this, I need that. Over the summer, or last winter actually, I got one of those Blackstone griddles. It's so fun. I can do like a killer fried rice. It does great steaks. It does great everything. But I've gotten to a point where I've got to create this little mise en place like tray that I bring out with all the ingredients that I need, so I'm not running back inside 1,000 times, grabbing this, grabbing that, and then worried that I'm burning the meal while I'm trying to find that darn sesame oil again. Having everything in place is super helpful. This applies to our music production as well. You may think, well, Joe, it doesn't really matter if I take more time. This is a hobby for me. No, there is something valuable about staying in flow. And nothing takes you out of flow like having to stop and go find the instrument that you need, or having to plug in all the things that you need and having to go, well, where's that cable? I can't find it. Oh, it's over by, and you're crawling under your desk. I'm not saying these are bad things, but for me, before I started live streaming yesterday, I brought this keyboard close. I made sure that the MIDI was connected. I got my guitar, my Tone Master Pro down there ready to go with the cable ready. All my guitars nearby and out of their cases. And basically to where I could stay in my butt in this chair and could get a whole lot done. Microphone, keyboard, guitars, amp modeler, and then Studio One in front of me. So have a type of mise en place for your recording so that everything is within reach and you can get things done really well. You got your headphones nearby. You can turn your speakers off when you need to. You don't have to get up except to go to the bathroom, and you can just stay in the zone. I think one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself is, regardless of what your schedule is, how busy you are, give yourself regular time, ideally daily, if not at least weekly, where you can just get lost in something, where you can just sit down, let's say in your studio, and you lose track of time, you lose track of when's the last time you ate, you suddenly realize, I need to use the restroom. Like, to me, that's really fun when I am sprinting down those stairs because there's no bathroom up here, because I'm so lost in the music that I forgot that I need to use the restroom. I know that's silly, but that to me is a great day when I'm having to rush to the restroom because I got so lost in what I was doing. So if you don't find yourself getting into that zone, they sometimes call it the state of flow, I would encourage you to find ways to get into that every day if you can. Even if it's just like 30 minutes, an hour. I know the idea of setting a time on it kind of defeats the purpose, but maybe you set a timer, put your phone across the room, and you just say, I'm not going to think about anything but this song for the next 30 minutes. And if all you do is listen and you tweak a few things, or you just record one, whatever it is, that feeling of getting lost in something, I think is really good for the soul. I think that's part of what keeps us moving as creative people. And if we go for long stretches without it, I think it's detrimental, not just to our music, of course, but to the way we live life and the way we approach things and our mental health and all of these great things. So I'm not saying it's going to solve everything, but I have found seasons of life where I'm feeling just off emotionally. Usually, if I were to like dig into my daily schedule, I'm not spending a lot of time getting lost in something. And that's something for me, of course, is music, but it can also be other things like business and all that kind of stuff. But find ways to get lost in your work. It's so good for you, and it'll help you keep the momentum going on the project itself. So the first piece, give yourself the mise en place setup where you've got everything within arm's reach. As much as you can, make it as easy as possible for you to come into your studio, and within 60 seconds, you could technically be recording something because you've got stuff in place. I realize this may not be possible in every scenario, but figure out ways to make it as fast as possible to get set up and going. Even just having guitars out of cases, even though I know there's reasons to keep them in their case, having it right here makes me more likely to play it than having it in the case over there. There's something that's worth the little bit of a risk of this getting a little dry over the winter. I know you guitar folks are going to hate me for that, but the creativity is kind of the most important thing of all for me when it comes to this. The second piece of advice in regards to this and making things easy on yourself is do what I would call just-in-time track creation. What do I mean by that? When I'm working in my DAW, I don't create 10, 20, 30 tracks of things I think I might want to record. I'll create like as little as one at a time and maybe as many as three. So when I started yesterday or 2 days ago, for example, I knew I wanted 2 clarinet tracks and possibly a French horn. So I went ahead and set those up, keyboard tracks that I could play in the parts. They're going to be replaced by real tracks later, but I wanted to write the parts so I could have the notes to give to my kids. And then I knew, of course, I wanted this microphone. So that's all I created. And then as I added things, I would just create the track as needed. And here's a great trick if you've never done this before. So let me open up Studio One real quick. Let's say I've only got this one. Let's actually do this. Let's get rid of everything in this session except for this vocal. Let's say we just started and we recorded this vocal. Let's say it's the guitar, and now we want to record a vocal. Once you've created the one track, and I'll just generally use the same microphone for a bunch of stuff because it just makes life a lot easier. Instead of like going up here and adding a new track and setting up all the settings, I'll take the existing track and I'll just duplicate it. I'll duplicate it and I'll rename it new vocal, and then I'll hit record enable, and we will go and we'll start recording. So instead of going in and creating a bunch of tracks beforehand, which I think is mostly a waste because you might not know what tracks you need, and instead of going into this menu all the time, I will just duplicate the existing track as much as possible. Now, when it's time for something new, like I want to record, I need a stereo track for my electric guitar, I'll do this. I'll set it up here. Let's say I wanted to record my 335 in stereo using that input. But once I do the first guitar, now I've got my preset for everything else. So I could say, all right, I've recorded that one. That's neat. Now we're going to record the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. In case you're a Studio One person, I'm hitting Command D, which copies the track and all the settings, but doesn't copy the audio, which is super handy. That's the way I'm able to build productions really quickly without even really thinking about it. And it lets me stay in that state of flow and in that zone. So for example, with these background vocals, I created one track, I sang it, I duplicated it, I panned it to the left, I duplicated it, I panned it to the right, I sang it again, and now I have these two. And then I just selected those two and hit duplicate, and it gave me two more, one pan to the left, one pan to the right, that I could then sing the next part for the background vocal, and then I repeated the process again. So if I were to show you, if you go back and watch, when I did these background vocals, it didn't take very long at all. It took longer just to edit them down to exactly the loop that I wanted than it did to actually record them in the first place. Actually, it didn't, but all of that was very quick. The speed doesn't matter in terms of, ooh, I'm faster than you. It matters in terms of, wow, I was able to create something really fun. Like these turned out really cool. Joy to the world, joy to the world, joy to the world, joy. And then I just loop it and go again. That took all of about like 3 minutes to do. And so when you get to that place where you can create really cool things, if it doesn't take a lot of time, you can get to the point where you can decide if it's a good idea much faster, right? We record this and say, oh, nope, don't like it, delete it, let's try something else. Or you now know, cool, I like that, what else can I do? And you can go set things up and record things and try things. And in like the span of 2 hours, I tried a whole bunch of things and ended up with a whole bunch of tracks that worked super well and created something that I was excited about and excited to share with you. So make things easy on yourself by having as much in place as possible so you can quickly grab your instrument and make the sounds that you want to sound, the sounds that you want to make. And then secondly, use just-in-time track creation where you record the track that you need and then just duplicate that track to copy the settings, and then you can record the next one and the next one and the next one. This works really well, especially I like to just use one microphone as much as possible, or I'll have one other mic set up, or one keyboard track with stuff, one guitar track, and then I just duplicate the ones if I need more of anything, and I'm off to the races. Okay, so now I want to give you a tour of what I have thus far. I would argue just about everything here, with maybe the exception of the background vocals, will likely be replaced. It's almost all scratch tracks. I know this bass needs to be replaced. I'm going to change the name to X bass because I overplayed. But this allowed me to kind of figure out, is this the vibe that I want? And I'm real excited about the vibe. So I want to take you on a tour of the tracks that I created in the order that I created them, just to give you an idea of that creative process. And if you want to see the full thing, I will link to in the description. There's a full, a little over 2 hours of me going through this process. But this is a kind of an abbreviated version for you as well. So start off with this one. Like I said before, it's a single microphone that I'm singing and playing. So I'm just sitting in front of it and recording this part. 1, 2. So that's it. I sing. Joy to the world, the Lord is come. Okay, so that's the bass. That sang the song all the way through with that. And then from there, the next thing I did was add in all these, in my keyboard bus, I've got all these different horns, not horns, woodwinds. So my son, my freshman, he plays clarinet. He's going to play clarinet 1. My twin daughters are in 7th grade. Maggie plays clarinet. She's going to play the harmony clarinet. And then Lila plays French horn. I think she's going to play this French horn part. These are basically, this first section are just the background vocals. I'll show you that in a second. It's the same harmonies that I played for you already. But I really wanted to figure out on this second verse, what is the clarinet going to play? And what's really, really cool, in case you didn't know about this, when I double click on this, I can just see the notes that I played, right? So I just went through and found the melody. It's mostly the melody that you're used to, with a few little flourishes, and this probably isn't the final version anyway. He's going to give me some feedback on what he would like to play or can't play well, or we can make changes. But what's the cool part about all of this is I'm not making him look at MIDI notes to play, and I'm not making him play by ear, which he doesn't want to do. There's a little button in Studio One right here on your MIDI notes that called Score View, and it gives me the score. Isn't that cool? So it took my MIDI notes and turned it into like proper black and white notation, which is glorious. And so this is also, by the way, the song's in B flat. He's playing it in C because that's how clarinets work. And I can even turn it into a single page, and I can even print it out, which I did. So he has a piece of paper with this part on it that he can go practice. This is all built into Studio One. This, I sometimes can be a little bit grumpy about people who are always mad about not having new features in their DAW. I tend to just not need new features because I'm just too busy making music. But when they introduced that feature a few years ago, I didn't realize it was going to be a game changer for me, but it absolutely was. And I know game changer is overused, but it legitimately is really cool because now I can print music for my kids. Isn't that fun? So he plays something simple like this. So just to be clear, that's just a clarinet sound as a placeholder. I'm going to record him with a microphone playing on an actual clarinet, and this, obviously, all these MIDI tracks will go away. But they're serving a purpose for now, because they help me write the parts, which is cool. I don't do a lot of composing, so this isn't like super familiar territory for me. But his sister will come in with a harmony at measure 51. Okay, so that's fun. And then I quickly recorded the background vocals, which I played for you already. And then after I recorded those, I came back and wrote parts for the clarinets to play as well, and the French horn. So ideally, whenever this kind of turn happens, which is just a little interlude, then you'll hear voices. It'll be me singing, but also my daughter singing, because she's going to sing a vocal track. And then it'll be the clarinets and the French horn as well. So it'll all kind of join together to create this. Yay! So that's fun. And so from there, wrote some more parts for the clarinets. I wrote a harmony for him to sing with me on verse 3. So verse 1 is my daughter. Verse 2 is an instrumental with my son playing clarinet. Verse 3 is me, but it's very down. Right here. No more, let's sing and song. And it's going to build. And so I wrote a harmony part for him to play with me there. And then the outro is just a vamp of that Joy to the World thing over and over. And we're going to kind of figure out ways to just do a typical Joe Gilder. How can we just vamp this out and make it nice and big? And then maybe for the last couple times, pull it back down to really, really quiet. So play with the dynamic just in how we produce the song. So from there, I've got my main guitar and vocal. I've got the horn parts. I keep saying horns, but it's clarinets. And then I've got the background vocals. So from there, I said I had this idea, and I mentioned this in the last video, of doing some fingerstyle electric, Radiohead-ish vibe. So I played with that. These aren't, I think, the final takes, but I think it's getting close to the vibe that I want. So the first one was my 335 through a Princeton amp, pan that left. With some tremolo was delightful. Then I grabbed my telly through a deluxe reverb without the tremolo and capoed super up high, like on the 10th fret, I think. But together, they're super cool. And then it took me a while to figure out what the vibe was going to be. But I think by the time I got to this turn, I had figured it out. How to do the finger style on both so they're not playing the exact same rhythm. So this, I think, works. Something like that. And so all of those together sounded really cool. Let me play that for you. And then I just recorded a bass line to go over the top to see how that feels. So now it's like a full-on production. The intro especially gets me. 1, 2. So we get to the end of the first verse. You can kind of hear everybody come together. It gets me excited. It needs more rhythmic stuff now. Maybe shaker, maybe like just a kick drum pulsing thing. I don't think a full kit. some cymbal swells, and then I want to do some strummed acoustics to give it a little more percussiveness, especially, I'm not sure where yet, but in addition to the one finger-style strummed acoustic that I need to record, and then some on the sides that just doing more of a chinka, 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 to just for the rhythmic element than anything. But already, it's got me very excited. It's like, here's how that last verse, the melody he plays, the harmony he plays is really fun. Bass line is too busy and ridiculous, but you get the idea. And then it just vamps and vamps for days at the end on this. So like, I'm thinking extra vocals on top of like kind of a, not a descant, like an ad-lib vocal that kind of comes in maybe here after these two and gets bigger. And then I think it drops out here at the end with just me and my daughter and one guitar and maybe clarinet, just kind of almost like a fade out. So it gets big goes through it like 4 times, and then it gets to this section. I don't know if you saw that, but when I turned the clarinets off, the woodwinds off, the winds off, and it just got down to just the guitar and the vocals stopped, and it was just these 3 guitars playing. It just, something stirred in my soul. I could just sit in that. So I don't know what it is exactly. Something about that major 7 note, the cleanliness of the guitars, the rhythm of the boom, but then the steadiness of the fingerstyle. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it connects with me like nobody's business. I want to make sure that we capture that too. It feels like contemplative, right? And the whole song is like joy to the world. Like, what if you believe the Bible, like Jesus coming, like the reason Christmas is such a big deal is because like it's this impossibility that became possible, and it kicked off the hope that we have. And so singing like joy to the world, like it's such a, anyway, so I wanted this to be happy. I didn't want it to be like, it's a little cheesy, like the background vocals are a little on the cheesy side, but I didn't want it to be like, I wanted it to have like a more of a contemplative feel to it, and I feel like it does. And I like that it'll end with just something simple, and it begins with something simple. 1, 2. It's really fun. So, which of these tracks will remain? I most likely will re-record almost everything. The guitar, the electric guitars. Now that I know the part, I'm probably going to practice a little bit and play it better. I'm going to play a simpler bass part, but probably before any of that, I'm going to finish out the production and figure out, okay, something more rhythmically needs to happen. The acoustic guitars are probably the first, especially the doubled, panned, strummed acoustics, then percussion, whether that's just a simple like muffled kick drum and shaker, figure out where that's going to go, and then maybe some cymbal swells, then revisit the electrics. And then it needs a keyboard probably too, like a Fender Rhodes would be beautiful on this, or some sort of pad, probably both. All of those are those are like the more production things. The lines between pre-production and production are, of course, blurred. Pre-production to me is getting the bones of the song in place. Then we can replace pieces as we need. And so that's maybe we've done pre-production perhaps, and we're moving on into production. But now it's just a flurry of activity around replacing what needs to be replaced, adding what's missing, and then, of course, recording the kids, their parts, figuring out if those work and what changes need to be made there. Then we need the vocals. Lila needs to sing her lead part. I need to sing mine. I need all the acoustics. And then from there, it's like little bits and pieces of how do we get it to the finish line? Do I need to pull out the baritone guitar for something? It's in the low note on the baritone is a B. The song's in B flat, so I could take it down a half step and have this bow thing happening. That could be cool. These are all thoughts in my head, but the good news is you don't have to know if it's going to work. Just open up a track, try it, listen, and you can say, yes, that works. No, it doesn't. And both answers are completely fine. That's totally a part of the process. Hey, if you liked videos like this and you want to see me continue producing this song, be sure to subscribe. I'll be doing this series up until it releases. The plan is to release it around the 10th-ish. I forget the date. I don't have it in front of me. But even if you're watching this way into the future, this is accurate portrayal of how I go about producing. It's fun, it's relaxed, but there's a little bit of pressure to get it done, because without that pressure, nothing gets done. So please be sure to subscribe. And if you haven't checked out, I do this challenge, and I'm currently doing it every month. Who knows when I may stop doing it, so I don't want you to miss out. It's called the Better Mixes Challenge, previously known as the Speed Mixing Challenge. Go to bettermixeschallenge.com to find out more. I can help you get better mixes in 5 days. If you hear what I'm doing, you like what I'm doing, you want to do more stuff like this, I can teach you how I think about mixing. It's a very simple process. It's way less complicated than just about everybody out there wants to teach you. You just learn how to do a handful of things. Focus on a handful of things. You can get incredible sounding mixes with very little effort and pretty quickly as well. So come check out the Better Mixes Challenge, bettermixeschallenge.com. I'd love to see you. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.